right.
All right.
Let's go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Common Sense, the podcast. We're looking forward to sitting down with a guest I've been looking forward to having on this week, Josh Straussberger. Man, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I've been excited about this one. Thank you. I didn't go ahead and get it out of the way before I forget. I want to thank Jesse Largent. Thank you for the connection. Because really interesting, cool connection. Yeah. Mutual friend of ours that connected us to sit down and chat, man. So
yeah,
man. I guess kind of just starting out. Let's talk about where you're from, a little bit about your background, man.
Yeah, for sure. So, excuse me. Born and raised Memphis, Tennessee. Grew up in the 80s out in Memphis.
Tennessee boy.
Gradually got worse out there, and
you mean it's not like it's just pleasant and awesome to live in Memphis, Tennessee?
No, it's really not. It's really not.
I have some friends that would love to debate that, I'm sure.
Do they live there?
I have one of my best friends back in the day was, and a couple of my old roommates, they were all from Germantown, right outside of Memphis.
Yeah, that's pretty smooth.
So, yeah, that's private school and stuff, though. That's not like downtown Memphis.
It's creeping out that way, man. Last time, my parents still live there. They live in Fayette County, so they got out, but they didn't get all the way out. So it's a lot out there. I try to not go back as much as possible.
So how'd you end up in Texas?
So born and raised Memphis, got married, started going to a jiu-jitsu gym in the Bartlett area outside of Memphis.
Okay.
Got into jiu-jitsu, started doing some cardio kickboxing.
Like what age are we at here where we're first getting into jiu-jitsu?
We jumped. I was old getting into jiu-jitsu. I was 30 when I started. So I was getting my butt whooped by 15-year-olds right off the bat. Purple belt girls, all that stuff. So very late to the party. But loved it, got into it. And the gym that I was at was a fight gym, so they had amateur MMA fighters, they had Muay Thai, they had judo, they had everything.
Yeah.
But in the corner, they had this little, probably 15 heavy bags, and they would run cardio kickboxing classes. So I was pretty bad out of shape at that time of my life. About 250 pounds. I always joke I was about 44% body fat.
That was the exact place I was this time last year.
I heard you mentioning something on the podcast. I was going to ask. So, yeah, you get married. Everybody, it's easy to say, like, oh, I was in great shape in high school. Well, yeah. You could eat anything.
Metabolism was going a million
I remember
miles an hour.
I played soccer and basketball, and like after soccer practice, I'd go eat 10 cheeseburgers at McDonald's, and it wouldn't even faze me. So, but got married, started having kids. We have 3 kids. Had worked a job that eventually got me into a management position, so everything got sedentary. So I like to eat. And I was doing nothing. So my wife started going to this gym and started doing fitness kickboxing. So she was like, you should come try it. And of course, I'm like, nah, that's for chicks, man. Like, I don't need that. Like, I'm in shape. I can still hang. And one day she just tricked me. I don't know. She talked me into it. I went and tried it. And honestly, like the marketing was even kind of cheesy because it was like a chick with high heels kicking a bag. And it's like, what are we getting into? But I get in there and
Please
it's like.
Tell me this is where you met JP.
It is.
Oh, man. This is greatness.
But we get in there and it's legit. Like it's next to a furniture warehouse. The storefront's nice. But you get in, it's like, it's not dirty, but it's like a used gym. Like it's not here to look pretty.
I mean, if it caught the eye of a badass Navy SEAL, I mean, it's no wonder you picked
They trained in the back though. They trained in the back. The cardio boxing and the jiu-jitsu, the sexy stuff was out front. So that was I had never done any kind of like combat sports or anything. It was always team sports. Been in plenty of bar fights and stuff before I even knew how to fight. So you get that false.
You grew up in Memphis. Say no more.
Also, just being an idiot a lot of my younger life, just biting off more than you can chew, but that's a different story. But so we tried this class. She had been going for months, so she was smoking me. She was like breathing normal, and 10 minutes in, I was about to pass out. So that was my like come to Jesus moment. Like, hey, you might need to do something about your weight. So started doing that, really enjoyed it. It was fun. It wasn't like Tybo, like in your mind. It wasn't anything like the picture with the chick in the high heels. Like it was dudes, it was chicks, beating up a heavy bag. So I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It's what got me into jiu-jitsu, but I still would go do that for some cardio stuff. And after a year or so, the owners of that, who I was friends with, I trained jiu-jitsu with, they were deciding if they wanted to franchise it or just open up partnerships or what. So they started opening up more in Memphis. So it just kind of got my wheels turning. Like, I'd only ever worked for people, but the idea of working myself was always there, but then also finding something that helped people.
Yeah.
So by the time I got ready, that ultimately is what led me to Texas, because there was no spot to open one in Memphis at that point. So I knew I'd have to relocate, and Dallas was one of the spots I went and checked out, and I really liked it here.
Like you guys just randomly
I wanted to go west. I have a cousin in Albuquerque, all that out there, but also like for what you kind of need a good market for it. So in 2018, there wasn't really much of a better market than DFW. So
yeah, man. I mean, that's like we were joking, we were talking about, because I mean, I went to high school in the Colony, and that's where you opened up one of your first gyms.
Yeah.
So it's like, how did you pick this? Like nobody picks the Colony. Like depending on how long you've been there. I mean, like, when I went to high school in the Colony, there was nothing out here.
Right.
Literally nothing.
The people I met since I've been here, they're like 121 wasn't there, or it was, but it wasn't the tollway. It was just a 2-lane road.
Yeah.
And then I watched the Tiger King thing and find out he was like one of the sheriffs here back then.
This is crazy.
Like, what have I walked into? But no,
Tiger King. That's awesome.
But it was just a cool little spot, and really it was, I think I told you when we were texting, like I looked at a spot in Frisco right by Stonebriar, I looked at a spot in Little Elm, and I looked at a spot in the Colony where we're at, and I kind of put letters of intent on all of them, but the landlord at the Colony was just super easy to work with, and my goal was always to open more, so it didn't really matter to me where. I just wanted to get my foot in the door. So
get that first one.
Yeah, get it under my belt, learn, make all the mistakes, learn, and get going. So that's how we ended up with our first one in the Colony. And
that's really cool. I don't know if you know this or not, but my older brother has a jiu-jitsu gym over here in Plano.
Oh, really?
Yeah, SIA Academy.
Okay, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, he does that. So I could relate to you talking about your first story of going in there. I have literally rolled one time. And this is when this was right before I got really out of shape. This was pre-COVID. Like, COVID was just around the corner.
Right.
And I didn't know anything. I mean, I took Taekwondo when I was younger, but I didn't know anything about, like, I couldn't remember how to tie the belt. I mean, what all do you wear under your gi?
Right.
Like, I'm being the idiot I am, I went and did an arms workout in the morning with my buddy that I trained with for years. We went and did arms. So I did bis and tris, and then I show up at 6 a.m. to this class for the first time. My brother is sick. He really was sick, but he still showed up to film and watch me.
He was well enough
get
to
my ass kicked by black belts.
This is an older brother, you said?
Yeah, older brother. Yeah. So, yeah, he does all this to me, gets me involved in that and stuff. So I have literally rolled once.
Okay.
Like,
it didn't take? No.
Man, no. Like, I thought I was going to die and pass out before the warm-up was over, man. These Brazilians, granted, his gym culture has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
At the time, it was more like what you were describing, where they had a little bit of everything. They had a lot of guys that really wanted to get in the UFC.
Right.
So they were training and trying to coach guys up and stuff. So it was pretty hardcore in there. And those guys were, I mean, it was damn near 100 degrees in there.
Yeah,
like, they're smoking it out. Like, they're ready to go. They're intense. Like, and I got thrown into a class just right out the gate.
Yeah.
And it's the morning class. So it's like real serious people here.
You're not getting up early for that unless you mean it.
Yeah. So. And, like, these guys all have experience. Like, I was, like, the only, like, new person in there. So, luckily, this guy named Baron, I got partnered with him. It was a black belt. He ended up being great. He worked with me. Kind of showed me the ropes, and like He's like, you're done, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, I'm
I've been done for 20 minutes now.
He's like, just sit over here and just watch and see what you can learn.
Right.
And I was like, cool. I'm good with that.
I can't raise my arms, so yeah.
I can breathe now, so like we're good. And I can complete full sentences. I couldn't do that 30 seconds ago.
It's eye-opening.
And they tell you, like, you just have to do it. Like, there's no, like, because I kept saying, oh, when my cardio gets better, I'll work on my cardio. And
everybody says that. Everybody says that.
Cardio for jiu-jitsu.
I'm doing cardio kickboxing classes 4 or 5 times a week, so you know, I'm trying to get my cardio up. One of the instructors at the time was a purple belt. He was like a high-level Muay Thai guy.
Yeah.
He started on me like week 2, like, you need to come try jiu-jitsu. And I was like, yeah, I need to get my cardio up.
Yeah.
So I put it off for 6 months, getting my cardio up, and it was the same scenario.
Yeah.
It made zero difference.
You still started at the exact same point.
I'd had the same story as you, just my brother wasn't filming me. But
that's why I'm like, he keeps on me like, come do it again. Like, you know you train here for free. Like, come pick a class and just start doing it. And like, that's my hesitation still. I'm like, I'm still starting there where it completely sucks. Like, I'm gonna do it, but like, I just, man, like, that's such a mental thing to get over. Like, when you don't even feel like comfortable that you can like consistently tie your belt that comes undone 24/7. It's like, I need a class. Like I told him, I was like, I can tell you right now, first things first, you're gonna have to spend like an hour with me, like while we're hanging out drinking one night, and make me sit here and tie a belt like, I don't know, 100 times until I get it figured out and I can do it with like my eyes closed. Because like, it's ridiculous. The thing comes off constantly. Like,
you got to tie it every roll.
Half of their tactics are taking it off of you and wrapping it around your neck and hanging it in there.
Yeah, you get tied up and everything tucked in, and immediately they're just like, But yeah, that doesn't change.
That's cool, man. So now you're up to 2 gyms?
2 gyms. We opened. So that was a traumatic time, almost. We opened the Colony in 2018, like October, and great success. It took off quicker than I thought it would, to the point where we were ready to open a second gym in 2019. So probably by summer of 2019, I started looking around. I didn't even know Denton existed at the time.
Right.
But our my agent, that was kind of commercial property agent, was showing me stuff. He was like, you want to look at Denton? It's kind of up and coming. Like, it's an old town, but there's a lot of new stuff coming. I was like, let's go look. Found one pretty quick. Actually, the first place I looked at, I loved, and I was like, well, let's do it. So we got the ball rolling on that. And we opened it the middle of December 2019. And stayed open until I think they shut us down. The shutdown started February, March 2020, something like that. So so we had like 2-ish months, just over 2 months. But luckily we had enough starting momentum that carried us through.
That's awesome.
It was very nerve-wracking, but
I can only imagine.
I just signed a 5-year lease.
It's called Total Fitness Kickboxing.
Total Fitness Kickboxing, yeah.
All right. Just so all you that want to check it out, you can go check it out.
Yeah, come check us out. My brother came out here as well, so he manages the Colony for me.
Okay.
And I made a swap up to Denton, so that's where we've been. So yeah, we decided
to hang out with all the hippies in Denton.
Yeah, keep it weird.
Yeah.
No, it's surprisingly, I like Denton a lot.
Denton's a cool city.
It's got.
For a college town.
Yeah.
It's kind of still small but big.
Well, and then even getting into my gym, I thought I was going to have to shift my mindset of like marketing and stuff more to college kids. And I do have a lot of college students, but there's just as many other. It's way bigger than I thought it was too. Denton is pretty huge, especially compared to the Colony.
Yeah.
So as far as population, but I like it a lot. It's also like right at the edge of the city, so like I can drive 12 minutes up 35 and go hunting, and I'm in like nowhere land.
Yeah.
So it's pretty nice.
In Oklahoma. In like 30
hour.
Minutes.
I'm an hour maybe 45 minutes from Oklahoma.
Yeah, you're right there.
But yeah.
Well, one of the other things, and one of the things I first picked up on with you was you're part of another podcast, which I think is cool. I think, Biz, am I right? Is he the first guest that actually also podcasts? I think so.
On a regular?
For sure on a regular basis. Yeah.
No, he's not.
Uh-oh.
Who else had a podcast? Who am I forgetting?
Who was your Yoda first season?
Oh, well, yeah, the Frakes.
Nope.
And Adrian.
Nope.
Oh.
20-minute podcast. Bourbon.
Oh, Randy Sullivan. Yeah, that's true. Randy does. Yeah.
So you're number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah,
That's all
number
right.
4.
That's all right.
But it's cool networking with other people that podcast, and then the conversations we end up having afterwards. But you're one of the team members of, I guess called team because there's 4 of you.
4,
that I've
yeah.
seen on there on average for Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu.
Solid 1,000 pounds of weight in there for
Dude,
sure. I'm the small guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say between you and the guy that I'm gonna call the more church guy.
Probably Steven, the not Samoan
long
and not
hair, not Samoan and not JP.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, I'm like trying to get them all down while I was watching it and stuff, and it's like on the right side of the table, we're pushing easy 600 pounds over here of a whole lot of 2 dudes that you want nothing to do with.
No.
And then you got you guys over here on the other side, like the bouncing back, and I think I caught the episode where you guys didn't have, we were talking about earlier, the main camera up. So it was like assault rifle, it was like, that was cool. But like, how did you guys all come together to do this? I mean, you obviously got your start in jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, but how did Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, the podcast, come about?
So we started, the podcast was kind of like a secondary thought. It wasn't our intention at first. Actually, I mean, I didn't really want to do it at first. I don't know. It just seemed uncomfortable to me. It seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
But we started it's a ministry. It's a 501c3. Basically, our idea, we went to this men's event. All 4 of us did. We all trained jiu-jitsu together.
Okay.
And we went to this men's event for the weekend out in Palo Duro Canyon. And, it was not like a normal men's like kumbaya type thing. It was like some serious stuff got worked on out there. It's a great thing. It's called Pursuit. And when we came out of that, all of us kind of had the idea like, the church, I don't mean this negative, but the church sometimes gets a bad rap on how they approach people. So like we saw a lot of correlation between like, Jesus and jiu-jitsu and how it ties together. And then we started thinking like, well, there's a lot of people we roll with that probably wouldn't step foot in a church, but like we could bring the 2 together and bring it to them just to like help people, like not like a judgment thing, not like a beat you down thing, but like, hey, there's help here to offer. So it started as that. We started off trying to do
more like an outreach ministry.
Yeah. So we do events. So it's like a free seminar. We'll get world champions and all kind of stuff. They'll come. They'll teach some sick jiu-jitsu. And then we've always got Jocko Fuel for free handing out. So like, there's the plug. Yeah.
I didn't get sponsored yet, but like we got the Jocko. These guys are all tied in here.
But we hand those out, and then before we do live rolls, somebody will get up and just share like 15 minutes of testimony or a word. I know that's kind of like a church phrase, but just some type of scripture and share it and just kind of.
I think that's what is really cool from what I've seen, and we're gonna have to backtrack here a little bit too.
Yeah.
But what I think is really cool about it is the perspectives between the 4 of you. So you got you. That you do your kickboxing, your gym thing here, and then you got Steven.
Yeah, Steven.
And he was in some kind of like Christian music group or something.
Okay,
like
so
music.
I know Steven may not have been on the one you saw. So our producer, Lucas, he's got long hair
and the beard.
And he's an actual pastor, yes.
Okay,
but
so
but he was in
Lucas.
like the music world before, yeah.
Yeah, so he was in the music world, and then you have your Samoan.
Yeah.
That is like just a monster.
Right.
That you're like
college football, freak of nature, D1
I don't know that I
athlete.
want to roll with that dude in the gym.
Yeah,
like,
he's only nice all the time because he has to be, or he'd kill everybody.
Yeah. I mean, this dude is massive. You guys see him, and then you have JP Dental, which probably more people are going to recognize that name than not because he's a famous Navy SEAL with Echelon Front and Jocko and all those guys. So, but JP's no small dude. JP's not like. he doesn't look like the triathlete, runner, swimmer guy that made SEALs.
No.
That was a wrestler.
No.
That was in the lower body weight classes. Like, JP looks like he was a middle linebacker.
Yeah, he's a tank.
He's huge. Like,
He's
a beast.
shorter than me, but he's 230 for sure.
Yeah, and jacked.
And jacked, yeah. Jacked all the time.
Yeah.
I've been rolling with that guy for 10 years, and I don't think I've ever beat him.
But I think it's super cool. So, like, those are all those different backgrounds. And to hear a Navy SEALs perspective on the Bible and whatever passage you guys are going on. And, you know, someone that has to look at that from a completely different angle because, you know, they've dealt with war and death and all this stuff, like, versus you guys that have different roles, but you're also multiple different views there.
Yeah.
I think that adds a really cool perspective for somebody that, you know, I can get really easily turned off about talking about religion.
Yeah.
And there's certain people I won't have that conversation with because, like, in Texas, Southern Baptist especially, like, it can get real left field real fast.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, kudos to you guys. You found a really cool mix that I think does, like, it allows an opportunity for people to not be beat over the head with it, but yet find out, like, hey, maybe there's a piece here that I can at least relate to, and it starts that conversation.
Right. And I think for me personally, I know I went through, so I grew up going to church, like, with my mom, but I went through a time where I, like, had nothing to do with it too. Like, I just didn't care, turned off about it. And I think as I've gotten older, and then now this has even helped me grow even more doing this stuff, but, like, really being real about it. I think a lot of stuff just gets real ceremonial on some things, and some things are just, it's because we said so type of stuff. And I think when you really read the Bible, there's a lot of care in there. Now, I'm also balancing that as I've grown in my faith of, you know, there are some things you're firm about, but one thing I've learned just in general, that's just applied to religion and stuff, is I can't put my expectations on someone else, whether it's in business or jiu-jitsu or life or friendship or anything, because how many times has that burned me? I know, like, well, I believe this way, so you should believe that way. And then you don't start acting like you believe that way, and then I'm offended. Yeah. I put that on you. You didn't put that on you. So you really have to temper it. And then, I don't know, you really read what the Bible says. There's a lot of care and compassion in there too. It's kind of the point. Right. So that's, and then, like you said, getting 4 different guys' opinions on it. We're not scholars. We just read it and we're like, well, this is what it means to me. I think it really makes it approachable. Yeah, because you can tell it's not like, and I mean, I didn't even know that guy was actually a preacher. Like, I was just like, okay, like, he's definitely the one that, he's, like, got a lot of knowledge,
very well versed. Like, he's the one that is, like, pointing out facts and, like, really going, and then, like, but then the jovialness of, like, you guys joking back and forth and messing with each other. Yeah, that, you know, like, you guys just got off the mat or whatever, and now you're doing a podcast at like 2 a.m. and you guys are talking about religion. Like, it all just flows together well, man. Like,
so
kudos to you guys.
Yeah, it's been fun. I think being real about it is what helps. We're not trying to portray like we're anything special or anything like that. It's just, here's some info, there's some stuff that helps us. We're going to talk about it. We're going to balance it with our personal lives and our experiences, and then wrap it up and hand it to you. So
it's cool, man. Like, I've dug listening to it, checking it out while I was kind of doing my show prep, you know, like trying to figure out, like, who's this guy Jesse keeps telling me I need to have on the show? Like, I don't know this dude.
What's he gonna say?
And then, like, you know, you and I are talking, it's like you've got so many different things you're involved in. I mean, I know, so you had the Pursuit for Truth, that was the ministry that you, like, got involved with, and you guys went on that trip, and then you formed this group that does the podcast, but, like, you're also kind of tied in and started working with, like, Echelon Front, the Jocko stuff we got here, which happens to be one of my favorite books. Jocko is, like, Jocko and Leaf are 2 guys that, like, I've have on my, you know, that list of, like, the people you don't think you'll ever get on your podcast. Like, they're like, the unicorns, Rogan, Tim Ferriss, Aubrey Marcus, you know. I've got my list, and, like, they're definitely on there, but, like, I learned a lot and picked up a lot from Extreme Ownership. You know, and I'm just curious to hear, like, you're like BFFs with JP Dental. You weren't actually in the military.
Nope.
How did these relationships form between JP and Echelon Front and all this that you got involved with all this?
Kind of like we were talking earlier, just honestly being at the right place at the right time. But I don't know. One thing that has helped, like when I met JP, we trained together, and we didn't just like hit it off like best buddies right away, but like we were buddies. We mostly just hung out at the gym. We'd go to lunch some, but I knew he was in the Navy. That's literally all I knew.
Yeah.
And these guys like JP and all those types, Jocko Live, they're so humble. It's almost maddening because sometimes I want to be like, I'm proud of you, man. Like, say something about it.
Right.
But they won't. And he had just gotten out of the military, gotten out of the SEAL teams. He was living in Mississippi, right down from Memphis. So we trained together.
You guys were hanging out in Tunica. That's what's going down here. I know how you Memphis guys go.
But I watched him fight down there. No. There was no money to gamble back then. But no, we just hit it off, and I'm not saying that helped, but like we were probably friends for months before another mutual friend at the gym was like, hey dude, you know who he is, right? And I'm like, yeah, he's in the Navy or something. I don't know. Like, I respect that. And he was like, no. And he starts listing all the stuff about him, and he was in the same task unit as Chris Kyle, like names like about, but like the book Extreme Ownership wasn't out yet. I didn't know anything about Jocko, so I got to meet him before that, which is an honor. But then you start finding out this stuff through other people, so then I'm like, hey dude, who are you? And then shortly after that, it was a real big thing for like all of jiu-jitsu, but Jocko went on Rogan. I think he went on Tim Ferriss first. Yeah. And then he did his episode on Rogan, and I listened to it, and I was like, dude, this guy's awesome, man. This like, intense. And we saw like an influx of people coming to the gym for jiu-jitsu after that. And that's when JP was like, yeah, I worked for him. Yeah. And they wrote the book, and I read the book, and JP's all in the book. So then I start putting it all together. And
it's funny though, like, I have a lot of friends, and I've made a lot of friends that Special Forces. That's the first thing you like notice. Like, man, they ain't gonna tell you that.
No,
like that's part of their group. That like whatnot. Like, and it's funny. That's almost like the initial way you can tell somebody's full of shit.
If they start
just talking about it and like all this other stuff. Like we used to have, like, oh man, I'm not gonna call anybody out. I almost did, but like. You have these different people in the military that like probably just peeled potatoes and stuff, and they're going to tell you about all this crazy stuff of Special Forces, and it's like, man, I went to high school. I have some really good friends that like have gone on to do really crazy things,
right?
And like the JP Dentals of the world, like, and it's like they don't talk about that, man. Like, and you don't ask them about it. If they want to talk about it, they'll talk about it with you.
Well, and I think it's
not like they're ashamed of it or anything, like by any means, but like. That's not just like, hey, I'm JP, Navy SEAL. Nice to meet you.
I know Chris Kyle. Like, if they lead with that, it's like, all right.
Yeah.
You're hiding something or you're fake.
Yeah.
I think, though, a lot of those guys, too, like, it came naturally to me because we were just friends, but I think a lot of those guys, people do start acting a certain way around them. This is just my perspective, and they may hear this and be like, no, you're totally wrong. But I feel like certain people will act certain ways when they get around them, and I think it's noticeable. And it's not like a trick. I think I have such respect for people that do stuff like that I'm protective of them. So like, I never want to be the guy like, hey, tell me your stories. Yeah, I'd love to hear your stories.
Well, it's just like famous people that have no problem like going up and asking them for an autograph or a picture while they're having dinner with their family.
Yeah,
like. They're still a human being. Like, treat them with some respect.
Well,
like,
and
even if you have like a service member that like, he's a Navy SEAL, like, give him that respect. Yeah. Like, the dude doesn't need to have that. Like,
it'll happen with him. Like,
it does for sure.
I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting at Chewy's or at the jiu-jitsu tournament, but he's real cool about it too because he's so humble. So I get the balance of that. But you're absolutely right, because people can start acting weird, and then I get like super protective because these are my friends now, and I'm like, no man, we're not having this.
So
but I just getting to know him
a lot more when you can have that kind of relationship too.
Right.
Like, obviously there's lots of great lessons to be learned from these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had the most elite training in the world. They've been in the most critical, hardened positions any human being could be put into.
Things I have never come close to.
You just, I mean, to be able to apply any one of those lessons in your life, I think that's why I'm fascinated with it, just because I have family has a big history in the military, and then aside from that, like just the lessons you can learn.
Right.
Having a simple conversation with someone like that, that's way better. I don't want your autograph.
Right.
Let's, dude, tell me how did you deal with this? Same thing goes with, guests that have been, former athletes and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the lessons you learned from the great coaches. Like, you were obviously coached from the time you could walk at said sport till all the way through being a Hall of Famer or whatever.
People helped you get there to develop that. Yeah. What's this process? What's this? Yeah. Well, I think that transitions perfectly, because once JP went to work for Echelon Front and the books came out, they started doing like leadership training and all that. You can, that's accessible to everybody. If you read Extreme Ownership, you can see how they did their deployments and how it was run. And Extreme Ownership has stories, and then they apply a practical principle to it. So it's just another layer when you actually know them. Yeah. But I think that's great what you're saying is too, because all that's available now. You can go to a muster and you can learn 2 days straight from all these SEALs and Marines and stuff, and they're giving you the playbook on. Yeah. Now, granted, you're not doing the things they were doing, but it applies to business, life, everything.
You can still apply that and use it in your life.
100%. First time I read Extreme Ownership, I noticed how applicable it was to life first, before I even owned a business. And then I was in management for a medical manufacturing company. I started implementing it into my teams, and then I implemented it once I started owning my own business. And you just start seeing the correlations to life, to business, and to warfare on how just rare these people are, and then they just want to give it back to you just like that. So
advantages of leadership.
Right. So, so your original question on how I got to meet all of them, a lot of them have been just getting to do things with JP. Me and Jesse, our mutual friend, we met together working at a Echelon Front event here in Dallas. And I just kind of kept showing up and worked my ass off. So it's kind of a running joke we have. Sometimes you get people, they're like, oh, you get to hang out with JP and you get to go do stuff with Echelon Front. We've joked about on our podcast some, it must be nice people. Yeah. And I hate the it must be nice people. So my answer is usually, it's real nice. But behind that is, I understand I wouldn't have this opportunity if I didn't know JP. Yeah. I understand that. But I also want to represent my best friend when I'm doing these things, and I'm working my ass off. So that's opened up more opportunities.
You're also giving something. You're not just taking. You're not just showing up. You're volunteering for things.
Right.
And you're participating in the programs that they put on to learn more.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of these you still pay out of your own pocket to travel. You're not sponsored.
I'm not sponsored.
It's not but you just get in.
I'm lucky. I'm blessed enough now that I get paid to do that. Mm-hmm. So.
But I'm saying start now.
Oh yeah.
These people think that it's just handed here and
exactly.
Hey, get in and do this. It's a lot of conversations I have with different. I'm sure you have the same thing with podcast stuff. That you call somebody and it's are you giving to their community?
Right.
Have you signed up for their mastermind? Have you signed up for XYZ? Have you gone to hear them speak?
Right.
Have you volunteered at one of their events? Why is this dude going to come give you just an hour or two of his time when you haven't given anything to his community?
You just want to punch your card and show up. And it doesn't work like that.
No.
Especially in those circles, man. The funny thing is I do it for free still just because I believe the mission. And that's kind of one thing as I've grown through life and business and stuff, it doesn't really, the goal obviously is to make money. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But there's some things I would work for Echelon Front for free because I believe the mission. Now I'm glad they pay me.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. But you don't get tired of doing these things when you get fulfillment from it. And that's one thing, as I transitioned from working from somebody to owning my own stuff, I could focus my time and attention to things that fulfill me in a way that I'm giving back to people. I'm helping people, but it fulfills me too. So I think
that's awesome.
I think that's the biggest key in all of it. And I think that reflects in your work. So,
yeah.
Which I'm nothing special at Echelon Front. I sell merchandise, and on the FTXs, I run around and yell at people and shoot them with laser guns. But it's a proponent. It's a tool to help further the training. So everybody has an important job, and you do it. So, and I get to sit in on every debrief. So when we're doing these things and they're teaching these clients all of these things, I get it for free over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
However many times a year, how many trips a year we do it.
So it's just ingrained.
Yeah. So that's super even more fulfilling.
Yeah, that's real cool. All right, well, real quick, because I'll forget to do this, and we're not live. This is what's real different for me is like normally this is live, but since we're doing this different setup and everything for the next few weeks, it's not live. So I'm used to have my computer here and people commenting and all this stuff. So like that's a little weird for me, but
see, that would be weird for me. So
yeah,
this worked out perfect.
Yeah, you have these guys all harassing you right now, like, hey, ask Josh about this.
I'd love to.
Yeah, some of those get to be awesome, but what we normally do a segment. What are we drinking? What are we smoking?
Okay.
Well, today we're drinking water and Jocko Go. I haven't tried this one yet. This is actually awesome. I'm looking forward to this one. I really like the vanilla cherry one.
Oh yeah, Dakota Myers drink, Dak Savage. Yeah,
so good. Like that one, and then the orange, like Top Gun looking.
Yeah, Dave
Jocko
Burke.
can.
Yeah, the Top Gun. Yeah,
dude,
it's kind of sad. Like they used to be signature. It's not sad, but signature flavors. So everyone had like a name attached to it, and now they're just their flavors. It's more marketable.
What was JP's?
Sour Apple Sniper.
Sour Apple Sniper.
Yeah, it's my favorite. This is my second favorite, but it's the newest. So,
all right. Well, cheers, man.
Yeah,
right on. I'm looking forward to that. So, normally we're having bourbon. We're gonna stay around and have a cigar and some bourbon with people after when they actually open up.
Absolutely.
So that'll be cool. Any of y'all that come out to join us. But as far as what we're smoking, y'all are gonna hate me on this one because these are gonna be hard to get cigars and. People are going to be mad. You're probably going to be mad.
I'm mad already.
Like so, based off what you told me you had smoked and liked, you've got a Cavalier limited edition. I think that's the 2021?
2022.
2022. So, you got the 2022. Excellent cigar. Pretty sure it's a Maduro wrapper on that one. Biz can probably correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
Seems like it to me, but I'm a white belt. So.
And then I've got one of these old Crux Limitadas, and this is, I don't even know how old this is. This is out of their like mystery box pack, and I was cleaning stuff out of my locker, grabbing cigars today, and I saw this, and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. And then this is one you can get at Industrial that I think you're gonna really like if you like. You said you like Liga Privadas and Perdomos. That's what you'd smoked most recently.
Yeah.
This is the Grand Habana 20th anniversary limited edition. These are phenomenal. Like good go-to.
Can't wait.
Cigar. So yeah.
So now I'll have 4 names to go with. Well, 3 because this one.
I'll be able to like add to that for you. Like we'll go down that road. What's your favorite bourbon since we're not drinking anything right now?
So favorite bourbon.
What's the Tennessee guy gonna say?
I will say there are some TXs that I like. It surprised me. There have been some like single barrel special editions ones, but I like. So my favorite is a rye, Michter's rye. It's Kentucky. It's not Tennessee, but.
As long as you didn't say Jack Daniels. I only drink like the single barrel select Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
The normal run-of-the-mill Jack Daniels, I can't drink. I can't do it. I've tried.
No.
Can't do it.
I know.
I
I'm a
don't care
Tennessee
how much
boy,
Coke you put in it, it's not good.
Well, I want to be able to drink it without Coke in it too. So, no, I like Michter's. I like their rye. I like a recent trip in the last couple of months. I tried Blanton's for the first time.
Okay.
And it was up there. But yeah, those are my
regular
favorites.
Blanton's.
Yeah, it was just regular Blanton's.
Yeah. I like straight from the barrel. Straight from the barrel is probably my favorite of the Blantons, unless you get into the really weird exotic stuff like that Blake Manwaring has like by the shelf. Like it's insane.
Well, again, I'm probably still a white belt in that, but the ones that I've tasted and liked, those are...
You can't be from Memphis and be a white belt in that. I'm calling complete and absolute lie right there.
Back in the day, it was Maker's Mark. I can tell you that right
there you go. Yeah.
Old charter.
We're joking about this white belt joke because when I asked him about cigars, your typical person that does not smoke a lot of cigars is not going to say, I smoked a Liga Privada and a Perdomo, and that really rocked my world, and I thought those were awesome. Like, that is a bold, strong couple of cigars for somebody that doesn't, like, just regularly smoke cigars. Like, and any person that was asking me out the gate, that would not be my recommendation. Like, I would not be like, you should go get a Liga Privada. You're going to love it.
I would tell you, my friends set me up just to get beat up, I think.
I want to meet the friends that like did that to you. Like,
Matt Russell, it was you.
I want to know on this one because, like, you know, usually people, you got to start them off, like, you know, just like anything. Like, you can't give most people, you can't just hand them a rye.
Yeah.
Like, most people associate spice with rye.
Right.
Not all ryes are spicy. I'm sorry to break the news to the world, but, like, they're not. Some of the best old fashions you will ever have should and usually are made with rye.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have a stigmatism towards that.
Like, it's too much. It's too harsh.
Too much. It's too hot. It's too spicy. So, you know, but you start somebody off with a Blanton's or a Maker's Mark or a Crown Royal or, you know, any of those things. Like, you're not going to just like overwhelm somebody and make sure that they hate bourbon out of their
right out the gate,
out of their first gate drink.
So they were trying to do that with me on this. I loved it.
That would
though.
have been what I would have assumed. That they're like, we don't ever want him to smoke cigars. Like, we're gonna blast him so hard right out the gate, he's gonna go. Or they were all hoping you were gonna smoke it on the podcast and puke or something. You know, like
honestly, the Perdomo was so smooth. I didn't even notice it was kicking my ass until it was like
until after the fact.
Yeah, and it went
but that's
fast.
What I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying either of those are bad cigars. Just for a newbie, a white belt, you don't usually start them there. You know, I would have gone and, you know, picked something much lighter, a Principal or, you know, a Crux, like some, you know, a Bull and Bear is even kind of strong for, you know, somebody that's never, you know, really smoked a lot of cigars. So, you know, teach their own.
Yeah.
But I mean, good for you, man. Like
they threw me in and I loved it. So
yeah, the doors are wide open for you, my friend, on choosing cigars. Like me and Joseph were even having a hard time because I was like, all right, this is what he really likes. He loved these. He's newer. He's like, he started there? I'm like, yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, so where we go? Like, because we talked about getting you some German engineered cigars. Like, that kind of fits in that wheelhouse. And, you know, there's so much. And, you know, I'm constantly learning about cigars.
Right.
So
it's fascinating.
That's what we're drinking. That's what we're smoking, you know. So.
Yeah, and this is amazing. So you're right. To keep it on theme, you started me right off the bat with something I'm not going to be able to get. So
I mean, you could get some. Like, I mean, like the 2023s are still out, and they're different than that, but, you know, relatively similar. You know, everybody loved the 2019 version of that cigar. Like, you find somebody that's still got those, buy them.
Yeah.
Like, they're legit good. The 2021s, I think it was, I didn't like as much. It had a different flavor to it, so it just didn't really do it for me.
Right.
But starting back in the 2022s, and I really like the 2023s. I think I bought like 2 boxes of those. So, yeah, those are all really good ones.
I bought the last time after I had the Ligas, I bought the number 9s.
Yeah.
Those are nice for like.
I like those really tiny ones. I don't.
Yeah, they're like
the number 9?
A cigarillo almost.
Yeah,
but
those, I love having those. I buy those. Davidoff makes a little tin case. You'd probably really like the Nicaraguan ones. I think it's a black case with an orange label on it.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, I like those because, like, you know, there's nights like tonight where I'm going to do a couple cigars here on the show, and then, you know, we'll probably get one afterwards, and then, later at night I get it home and I'm just not quite ready to wind down. I don't want to smoke a whole nother hour and a half long cigar. That's usually something that I'll go to, something small like that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I traded the Blake Manwaring I mentioned earlier. Good friend of mine that I'm in the bourbon clubs with. He had a bunch of those old number 9s. He's got a pretty impressive cigar collection too. He had some older stuff. So yeah, man, I love snagging little things like that. Those are good ones to get off of.
Those are. I'm gonna keep my eye out for those.
Yeah.
Well, those two, the smaller ones, like you were saying, help too. I've got kids, so like, I don't know. I'm pretty busy, so like.
How old are your kids?
14, 11, and 7. Woo. So it's hard to like just go outside for an hour.
Yeah. Do you have all of them involved in jiu-jitsu?
Two of them, the two oldest boys, they've all done the kickboxing some. And they'll still pop in every now and then. But the boys, Jake and Jarrett, they're 14, 11. They are consistent 2 times a week training jiu-jitsu. So that's been super awesome to see. My oldest, 14, is taller than me. He's already 150 pounds. Size 14 shoe. So like he's in the adults
class. He's
class.
eating you out of house and home.
Yes, I am. That's why I'm doing all these jobs that I do. Really, it's just to feed my kids.
Yeah, growing boys.
Yes. My daughter, she's 7. She sometimes wants to, sometimes doesn't. So I made a mistake when the boys were older. I was a different person back then. When I was a blue belt, both boys started jiu-jitsu in Memphis. But I was competing. I was training 6 days a week. Like, honestly, it was a bad thing. Like, I was neglecting time at home just to be training. It's almost like a cult. So I made them do it. I forced them to do it. And even when they were giving me signs and then straight up telling me, like, Dad, I don't want to go. And they're 6 at the time. I'm like, no, you're going. You signed up for this. Too harsh. Burn them out hard. So I learned a big parent lesson on that. And so, like, now it's very
at their pace.
Yeah, it's at their pace. Like once they commit, like I expect them to go. Yeah. But also there's some leeway. Like my oldest, he loves it. He wants to go every time. But if he's like, I'm not feeling it today. Now, if he did that like 3 weeks in a row, we'd have a different conversation. But again, I wouldn't be overbearing on him. So that's the same approach with my daughter. She doesn't know, though, since she's the girl. She will train. She's not going to have a choice, but not yet. So
a little later on. Mm-hmm. Well, that's real cool. I've got to get you and my brother introduced to each other. They do a big anti-bullying program up there for the kids.
Awesome, yeah.
And I think that's. I love that. I think that's really cool to have that involved. It's in Plano, you said? Yeah, right off of Preston and Spring Creek.
Okay, that's not that far.
Yeah, you know where the Big Weirs is right there? Yeah. They're in that same shopping center right there. Yeah, cool. We'll have to hook up. Yeah, I think you guys would enjoy getting to collaborate on some things. Yeah. You have a lot of similarities of the way you like to tie training and religion and everything else together. I think it'd be really cool. Cool. Enjoy that. Maybe he'll. He's not. I would say he might even show up on us tonight, but I think he's still in Arkansas for work right now. Oh, okay. But he surprised us last time, so you never know. He might be driving right now. Yeah, he might be driving. Might come in here, straight off the I-30, steaming his way in here. But yeah, don't miss that. Like I just talked to a client the other day that was coming back from Memphis. And I was like, are you driving? He's like, yeah. I was like, whoa, yeah. Don't envy you of that drive. He's like, no. Yeah, luckily I plugged it into my Waze and it routed me around Little Rock. I didn't have to go down 30 through there. He's like, apparently it's all under construction. I was like, Has been. I was like, this is the same as like 35 in Texas. It's been under construction the entire time I've lived here since 1996. I don't see that ever ending. Yeah. I don't think it ever will, because by the time they get done with this needs to be done. Or and that needs to be done. Yeah. I was like, 30, that drive to Memphis. I was like, I've done that so many times to go to Memphis in May. And, or then we direct and go to Voodoo Music Festival down in New Orleans or something. I was like, those 2 drives, like I don't wish those on anybody. No. And I always go up that way too when I go visit my family in Ohio. Cut that drive, we go up to Memphis and then cut up that way. No, unless the weather's real bad. But like man, you couldn't pay me to do that on a regular basis.
Well, when we first opened the gym, we sold our house. I moved the family up here in July, but I was still working, and my boss was cool. Like, I gave him months notice. He knew my plan.
Yeah.
So he's like, you can work here as long as you need. And the gym wasn't open. It was in the construction phase. So I'd have to be here to do stuff. So literally I'd work Monday through Friday, get off work Friday, drive straight to Dallas, be here with the family Saturday, Sunday, and then I drive straight to work. I work second shift, straight to work Monday for like 7 weeks straight.
That's
so that was not
just like you probably
ideal.
couldn't pay me enough money to go party on Bill Street.
No,
again.
no.
Like, I don't have a desire to ever do that again in
There's
my
a-
life.
there's a
Especially
high
until
90s
they upgrade their sewage system on Bill Street. Like, they're still like in the Roman Empire, I think. Like,
It's just
with their
flowing.
sewage system.
It's just flowing.
It just flows downhill. It literally does.
It's a high 90% chance you're going to get stabbed too. So
Yeah.
it just is.
Yeah, out on that. Well, what do you think what do you think one or two of the biggest lessons that jiu-jitsu and kickboxing have taught you in your life, or like that have been like the most impactful?
Probably the main thing is humbleness from jiu-jitsu. Like that is a sport, combat that it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to get got. And so, like, if you have any kind of ego, I think Eddie Bravo said it's like a filter for douchebags. And it's true. Like, you come in with any kind of ego, you're probably going to get that beat out of you. So you're either going to learn to be humble, or you're probably just going to quit and go on, because, like, people that can't handle loss, they're not going to like it because you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So I'd say humbleness for one thing, but then consistency, because you got to keep going. I've taken multiple breaks to open different businesses and in the move, and it's not as bad as starting over, but it's brutal. I mean, if you're not consistent, it's going to show on the mat. It's like, in my opinion, the only martial art that you can't fake. Like, if you haven't trained in 5 years and you show up on the mat, you're going to remember stuff, but your timing's off, your cardio's off, and every bit of that will be exposed. It's like karate and stuff. You're not really punching each other. You're not even, so you can kind of fake. Yeah, I still know how to punch, but you haven't been punching people, so it's different. So probably those two things are the biggest thing in that.
I think it's amazing that no matter what special forces avenue someone has gone down, almost all these guys are hardcore jiu-jitsu guys.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's the bridge that keeps their sanity when they get out of the teams, because it still gives them that competitiveness.
Yeah.
And they're still training at something.
Yeah.
Or what? But, like, I mean, I've had several people that are just die hard, and it's like those go hand in hand for them.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's the only one you can train to 100% and not seriously maim your training partner. Because, like, Muay Thai, you can spar and do rounds, but you get your bell rung a couple times, they're going to pull you out. So you're not getting. You can literally go 100% with every move in jiu-jitsu, and they'll just tap. So maybe you're not breaking their arm, but they better tap or you're breaking their arm. So I think there's a level of that, like, you can 100% execute every move over and over and over and over again. So it really gets the aggression out for sure.
Yeah.
And keeps the competitive part alive.
What do you think is, like, one or two of the biggest things that you've taken from working with and around JP and Echelon Front?
Humility too. These guys, and not just the general, like we were talking about, most SEALs and Special Forces guys, but just, it's one of their biggest points in Echelon Front. Like, ego will destroy all your relationships, and, like, seeing these guys and getting to work with the team too, like everybody on the team, that is one of the best run places I've ever experienced, because there's no ego. There's no, oh, why are you working hard? Are you trying to get above me? No, the mission is getting the team advanced.
Yeah.
And it's so rare, really, because most people don't want to see other people win. In my experience.
Yeah, I mean, in corporate business world, everybody's trying to get a leg up and to grow and to advance and to climb that corporate ladder, the rung. Keeping it a team and working to help each other is a difficult balance to create.
Yeah.
You know, and I recognize that, you know, as I've gone up in leadership positions and stuff like that, you know, it's to maintain that and to find that balance is challenging.
It's challenging, and I feel like it's rare.
Yeah.
I'm not in the corporate world anymore, but we do, so for the FTXs, we do open to the public events, and then we do a lot of corporate gigs. So corporations will bring us out to train their team on all the leadership stuff. And it's apparent that they don't know how to work together because of some of these issues. And just seeing it. The other thing too is, again, I don't have anything to compare it to. I've never done any kind of leadership training that's not this, but they're so approachable. Like, we're going to do the muster in San Diego, which is their 2-day like seminar, but they don't have a green room. Like, all the breaks, they're just approachable. There's no ego. Like, when we're not teaching you stuff and it's break time, come talk to us. And you can just straight up, you may have to wait in line, but they're just there. And I believe they legitimately care. It's not, you can feel it in everything they do, that they care. They're not trying to make themselves look better. The more people they help, it does help them, but they're in it to help people. And that's kind of like what I said, like, it fulfills me.
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff I want to put my energy into. So it really aligned real quick with me on that.
That's really cool. I just watched Jocko's masterclass recently, and that was impressive to watch. Like, I'm going to have to sign up and go to one of these events.
Dude,
sooner or later.
They'll be we'll be in touch. They'll be back in Dallas this year too.
Yeah, I saw they have a Dallas and an Austin one, I think, this year.
Oh,
maybe it was San Antonio. I can't remember. I saw a couple.
Yeah, Muster for sure will be here, and we're going to Nashville, so I'll be back in Tennessee.
There you go. That's the one I want to go to.
That's the nicer part of Tennessee.
Yeah. Although Nashville has changed a lot.
That's what I've heard. I haven't been in a while.
I've driven through. I haven't really stayed. Like, sometimes I'll drive over there and stay the night on my way to Ohio. You know, like that's usually if I haven't broken by then, I'll keep on pushing through.
Because from here, you're pushing.
I'm tired by then.
12 hours by then, yeah.
It's like, all right, I think I'm done. I need a break for a while.
But I haven't been in probably 10 years to Nashville. So
are there some other groups like that like you are looking at participating in, or that you do for? I mean, it seems like you're constantly looking for ways to find fulfillment or to educate yourself further or learn more about things. Are there other ones that you have on your calendar that you're looking at doing that?
No. So right now with the 2 gyms and the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, and then I go back and serve on the leadership team on these men's pursuit things that I was talking about, and then Echelon Front. The calendar's getting pretty booked. I heard, I don't remember, one of the podcasts I listened to, it might have been Biz. He said something like, anytime there's an open spot, he's like, I can fit something in there. And I'm having to really balance that. Just some things too, like I found I'm too busy, and like I have trouble getting my workouts in. I have trouble getting to jiu-jitsu because I've just started to spread myself thin, which is comical to say, because then there's JP and those guys. They keep a pace and a schedule that I don't know how anybody does it. They are all over the place, and they still, it's the discipline.
5 a.m.
Yeah,
go.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm like, how do you guys do that? Like, if I don't get 5 hours of sleep minimum, I am the biggest asshole in the world.
Well, that's one thing that's changed for me, is prioritizing sleep, but it's, when you're on a gig, it's hard to do because you got to get up, and you're probably not getting to bed early. But when I get home, I have to like make sure, otherwise I'm falling apart.
Yeah.
So I need like 6 to 7.
That's one of those things I wonder that I would love to ask one of them. And it's funny, I haven't asked this before, I don't think, to some of the special forces guys. Like, is there tricks of the trade? Like, is it just because they've trained it out of them, or how do you do that? Like, what if you're a person that like is used to 7-8 hours of sleep? Like, what happens when critical mission go and you've only been asleep for 4 hours?
I'm
you know, like how do you guys like? Do you drink Jocko Go?
Yeah.
I mean,
those
like,
didn't exist then, but
I mean, like you're drinking 4 pots of coffee. Like, what are you guys doing to have the amount of focus, the amount of strength, energy?
Right.
I mean, I know a lot of that starts with training. You know?
I'm sure
they're getting the exercise. It's consistent. They stay in that routine. But like, what happens when you get on said mission and shit just doesn't go right, you know?
Because
like,
it never does.
Yeah, because it never does. And you're on option 3 now, and you guys haven't slept. You're sleeping in 15-minute intervals, watching each other's 6, you know, like whatever. Like, what are there other mental tactics or things you guys utilize? Because like, you get into that high pressure world. I mean, I know that's where a lot of their teachings are really relevant and helpful, but like, how do you do with that? Like, let's just tackle sleep maybe. Like,
right. I don't know the ins and outs of that. I know, obviously, one of their big sayings is discipline equals freedom. Mm-hmm. And everybody there is big on the discipline train, and it's learned. You don't just come with it. Like, you don't. Yeah. So that's got to be it. But what happens
on the night? Like, they're used to, like, I'm sure you take somebody like, we'll say Jocko. He's got to be asleep and in bed by, I don't know, let's call it 10 o'clock every night. Because he's up at 5 a.m.
I'm sure he is, yeah.
He's up at 5 a.m. doing his muster, you know, like getting after it like every day.
Got the watch.
I mean, the watch is tagged. I mean,
here's the receipt.
You can check Jocko's receipts on Instagram and Facebook every day. It never changes. Yeah. What happens when it's the night he's at some event and he ends up out there till 11? And
well,
by the time
sometimes
midnight, he's home now and he's not falling asleep till 1. 5 o'clock's 4 hours from now. It's rolling.
Sometimes I've seen him post. It's rare, but I've seen him post like, you know, he lives in San Diego. He's traveling to the East Coast, late travel day or whatever. I've seen him post like he gets there around the time he's supposed to be up. He's like laying it back down, hold the line, you know. So like, I think there is that level of where he'll prioritize it and just get it. But it happens so rare. It's almost like how.
Yeah.
But then seeing them in action, man, these guys are so dialed in. It's So I don't know. I don't have all the answer on that, but I know
I want to figure that one out because like that happens like everybody's life. I mean, as disciplined as you can be, and I agree with that. Like, the more disciplined I am in my workout routine, my diet, when I go to bed, when I wake up, the better I feel, the better I operate.
You're firing on all cylinders.
Like, but how do you come back from the one-off?
Yeah.
Or how do you regroup that day? Are these guys now? Is it still I'm going to do this, but like, maybe everything's pushed back an hour.
Sometimes,
Or is it hey, it's okay every once in a while to have a break. Like, but these guys, like you,
I don't think there's a break. I think it's a shift. It's just a shift.
Yeah, like how does the shift work?
I traveled through the night to get the East Coast. I'm gonna sleep now.
Yeah,
and we'll get after it when I get up. Mm-hmm. And it just continues. I think they take it so seriously too, which I try to have that mindset. It's one of the things. JP says it a lot, and a lot of them do. They're always They apply what they're doing now as their new mission, even though they're not in, and they want to live to honor their fallen brothers, and they take that very seriously. And I do too now. And it's just kind of like, it's probably a mental game. And they're human. I'm sure they're like, man, I can lay down. Oh, but what about so-and-so? Nah, I'm going to get up and go. So they used to have, they have pictures they'll show at the muster, like in their bases and stuff, like the enemy thanks you for not giving 100% today. Just all those little mental cues. And it's like, I can't quit on my team now. So
I mean, I get it, but like at the same time, it's like, I look at someone like you. I don't have children. You have 3.
Yeah.
Like, how, bro, do you do all this and maintain a household and a family? And you're running in these directions. Your wife's having to hold down the fort. You're running this business and part of that business. And like,
so first off, having a partner that isn't aligned with the mission. So that helps. But even then, sometimes it's like, one thing I have good. So it's the the peripheral stuff. There are things. It's not like I'm going to go do something bad that she's like, I don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
It could be something great, but if I've been on the road doing all these other things that she's aligned about, she's like, do you have to go do that?
Yeah.
So that's the thing I've had to learn. Like, okay,
picking your battles.
So yeah, and some of the things that I want to do, like I last year I did, or the last 2 years I got into doing a lot of like gun training courses and stuff like that, just trying to be better than just shooting paper targets. And but I mean, that'll kill a weekend. So there's just times where it's like, all right, I need to cut these trips down. So some things get put on hold. It's not that I don't do them anymore, but you just really have to be disciplined in your schedule. And if, like Biz said, like if just because there's a spot and I'm like, well, I could go do this carbine course this weekend, there's only one spot. That's got to be the family spot. And honestly, getting into the Jiu-Jitsu thing has helped me even more. Like these are things I knew and believed, but like as I've gotten myself further into the Bible and stuff, and on being a good dad, it's like it's things it's common sense things too. But like when you really get to it, it's like they need to see their dad working hard and doing good things, but they also do need their dad there. So doing it with intent,
being present,
right, and being intentional with your time while you're there. So like I'll leave next Friday to go to San Diego, and then I won't be home until the following Friday. So the couple of days, I try to be intent with my time all the time, but especially before and after a trip, I try to really like, hey, all right, let's just have some family time, So
do you and your wife have a lot of the same hobbies? Like, is there certain parts of this that you guys really do together? I mean, it sounded like when you guys started this out, the kickboxing and stuff really, like, that was like a thing you guys found to do together and kind of tied you together. Is it more that?
She'll pop in some. Now the kids have gotten older, it's easier when they're older, but also in a way that keeps her busy too. So, and she homeschools now too.
Okay.
So she's doing all that. Now she got into lifting with me. So we have a garage gym. So we'll lift together. We'll do stuff like that. Sometimes they'll pop up to the kickboxing gym. She's great friends with JP's wife, and their kids and our kids are friends. So we have like a great mix there too. So like if me and JP are which again, he travels way more than me, but if we're on the same trips, there's always that. They do jiu-jitsu at the same place we do. So there's a good support group, I guess. That's not really what it is, but there's things that help her. And then as long as I'm doing my part, being intentional with my time there's not too much trouble with it. We have our routines of stuff we do, but she doesn't do jiu-jitsu. She'll go up there, but she doesn't do it. She tried it once. She doesn't want the sweat on her from other people. So I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
So we'll lift together. We are huge Office fans. The American Office, not the British Office.
Okay.
And so we've probably watched through it 15 times, start to finish. And that's like our thing. If I get home from the kickboxing gym, I usually get home around 9 o'clock. I'll eat dinner. We'll watch a couple episodes of The Office, sit on the couch, talk. Like, that's our time. And then prioritizing some time without the kids for us to do stuff. Those are the things I've had to learn to pour into to be able to make the trips easier too. But she's never been to a muster. I don't think she's read Extreme Ownership or any of that. So
All right, right on. I was just wondering how that balance worked with you guys, because I know that's extremely important no matter.
Yeah. She fully supports it. Now when I first started doing stuff, like when I first started jiu-jitsu, I don't think she'll mind me telling this, but like we went to a meeting, like we had a coffee meeting. We were just kind of setting some dates and stuff. And I had been at work and come off a trip, and she wasn't upset, but she was like, and it wasn't it must be nice thing, because she knows I hate that, but it was like, oh, you're going to hang out with your friends. And I could tell like the underlying theme there was I had not done a good job at prioritizing family stuff while I was at home, and I was just on to the next thing. But I told her, I was like, all of my business partners and people I work with and the things that I do with my friends now. So just because I'm going to have a coffee meeting with my friends, we are working.
Yeah.
And she gets it. And that's kind of what helped me realize. I was like, oh, I'm blessed. I'm getting to do all this stuff, but I have to make sure that she's aligned too. I can't just be like, well, I'm on to the next thing. We're going to go out to eat.
You know, that's probably my biggest goal for this year. The thing I'm working on the most is being more present in all of these aspects. Because you're absolutely right. You know, like that's probably one of the biggest battles I have with my wife is, you know, I go so hard at the things that I do that then like I'm not always as present as I should be when I'm home. I'm still on my phone. I'm
that
doing
thing,
this and that,
the doom scroll, and you might be doing productive things.
Yeah, or I might be trying to research for the show, but to her, I'm just half listening to her, and I'm scrolling on Facebook, looking through your profile, trying to find things that I want to ask you about, you know, while we're on the show.
Right.
You know, well, you know what? I need to set aside a different time to do that because to her, that's the first time I've been home.
Right.
And I'm there, and she is looking for me to be present and be a part of whatever we're
It's
doing.
a hard balance.
That's a very hard balance, and it's something that I openly, admittedly suck at.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not good at that. Like, I need to be more intentional with that.
Right.
And set better boundaries and do that better.
Yeah.
To where I have lots of other free time here and there. Okay, well, do that. Like, now that I'm home, like, I'm at home.
Right.
And it's not like I don't want to be here or I'm trying to find something else to do.
Right.
My mind doesn't work like that.
It's making and it's not making your mind stop. It's just focusing on something else that's important. But I'm the same way. It's always, well, I need to do this. I mean, JP and I have started a t-shirt printing company too. So
I can't wait for this.
Which we haven't even talked about yet, but it's a whole nother thing of same thing. Like I've run the gym all day. I've done jiu-jitsu stuff. I've trained. I've lifted. I've made calls, all this stuff. And then I get home a little bit and it's like, well, YouTube is a great source on figuring out how to run a t-shirt shop when you don't know how to print t-shirts. So I'm just, like you said, researching stuff. It's like, well, this is not the time to do it. So it's making your brain stop.
Yeah.
And focusing it over there. So
yeah, because I'm one of those people too. Like if I don't write in one of these at night or sometime in the day or afternoon a little bit and take some of this off my brain, I will lay in bed and it's bedtime, but like I can't shut my brain off.
The wheels are still spinning.
They're still going. I'm thinking about these 10 other things I still need to do or I could have got done.
Right.
Like I'm reading a book right now called The One Thing.
Right.
And focusing and like what's the one thing that I could do that makes everything else not as important or easier or that if that one, as long as that one thing gets accomplished today, but then I start thinking about it because I start writing these things down and it's like, okay, well, there's got to be, what's that one thing I can do in my relationship with my wife?
Right.
What's that one thing I can do in my day job? What's that one thing I can do for the podcast? What's that one thing I can do for this? Like, it gets that. Now you've got 5 things.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, whoa, I thought we were trying to find one thing.
Right.
Well, that's impossible. Like, it doesn't, people's lives don't work like that.
In echelon run, it's prioritize and execute. So it does end up being a list, but what's the most important one? Sometimes you can feel better if you get that most important one. You're like, all right, these can rest. Sometimes.
Or I can delay that till tomorrow.
Yeah, that'll hold.
But at least it's there. I know it's there. I'm not thinking about it all night now because
it's on my list of things to do tomorrow. I knocked off
the most important one.
Right, yeah. It helps.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
She and that's helped her align with it. So now, like, anytime there's a trip or something, there's no problem. Like, she understands the fulfillment I get, what we're doing. And so as long as I'm keeping that squared away at home, we're good.
Yeah, cool. So tell us a little bit about the t-shirt company.
Yeah, so that's what you had mentioned, if there was anything in the future like that I wanted to plug into, and that's what the t-shirt thing is. So we both kind of had an idea we wanted to do something like this separately, which there's no coincidences, I believe it there in anything. So JP and I he used to have an apparel line called Never Settle, and he would sell it at fight shows, and it's patriotic, and it went away, but he's always wanted to bring it back, so we're going to bring that back. But ultimately I ended up getting all this equipment and just putting it in a storage unit for a while, and then we started comparing notes on what we wanted to do, and I was like, man, I don't want to just be like a screen print shop that, I mean, we need these, but I don't want to just be like, somebody walks in, they're like, print this unicorn shirt for me. Like, I'm not saying we won't do that, but we wanted, again, to do things that are fulfilling for us. So like, we want to like print shirts for all of our jiu-jitsu gyms, and a lot of our mutual friends in law enforcement and first responders and stuff like that. So we have a lot of connections in those communities. And then some veteran stuff. There's Mark Lee's mom, they call her Mama Lee. She comes to all the musters. She's got a veterans outreach program. It's called America's Mightiest Warrior. I know a bunch of veterans that have gone through it. They do all kind of like rehab stuff, hyperbaric chamber stuff. It's just super beneficial for veterans and their families. And she sells merch, and it's all charity stuff, and those are the things we want to print shirts for. So
right, that's cool.
We lined up. We got the shop set up, and then we got more stuff for the shop set up, and then we thought we were ready, and then we needed more stuff for the shop set up. So it's been a year process, but now we're to the point where burning screens and getting some training reps. So there'll be some shirts coming off soon, and we want to do fun stuff too, but like we want to pour it into things that are like in those veins. So yeah.
Are you guys going to take a origin type approach to this, where you're going to keep it all American made type stuff? Like, is that something you guys have talked about or looked at?
We want it to be an option, and we're still working on our price list, and we're still working with origin. You can get origin blanks, depending on cost. I want that to be an option every time, but some people, if they're doing it, they don't want to pay that much.
They don't want to pay $19.99 for the shirt. They want to pay $9.99.
Right, so they can sell it for $20, $30, and I get that. Next Level used to have an American thing on the shirt, like 9-line. Have you heard of 9-line? Yeah. So you could buy on there, and sometimes there's an option for like $3 more and get the American made one. I don't think they have that anymore, so we would love to keep it all American, but that's just hard to find. So it's not going to be China, though. We can tell you that.
Yeah. So I just was curious if that was a push.
It's going to be a push. Like a lot of stuff I'm going to do on the origin stuff, just because these are origin pants. I support what those guys are doing and bringing manufacturing back and supporting America stuff. So
I want a pair of his boots so bad.
Oh, they're awesome.
God, those are expensive.
They're all. I broke down.
Awesome.
I broke down last year and finally got some. But
I'm gonna do it. They're always out of my size when I'm like, I'm gonna pull the trigger, and I go on there out of my size. I'm like, maybe that was a sign that I didn't need to spend this money right now.
But I'll keep checking. Yeah. They're legit though. Once they get broken in, they're.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just the quality of leather, you can just tell.
Just looking at them, you can tell. Yeah. Like, you don't even have to try them on.
Right. It's like, these are going to be like gloves on my feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the hope. As much as I can print on origin stuff, I want to. So
that's cool.
Yeah, we're working. So we've got some buddies that are retired law enforcement. They're do a lot of stuff in Arkansas. They're from the Memphis area. It's called Guild Solutions. It's like a tactical training company now, and they do some stuff for departments and some stuff for the public. So they've given us their logo to run some reps on. So
that's cool.
Just cool stuff like that.
All stuff I love being a part of. And
same.
like I just in any way
I'm like plugging them, like, just when y'all do that door breaching class, like, let me come be a part of it. Yeah. And then it's part of my ulterior motive. So that's business. It's not me going to do a fun training thing, but I could still go blow doors open. And, so
and pitch it on the side.
Yeah. So, awesome. But yeah, that's our goal with that. So,
right on. What other man? I had one and I lost it here. We got sidetracked with the origin stuff here again. It's just so easy. It seems like you and I have a lot of the same things we like to support and be a part of, like whether it's from guns to cigars to training to discipline.
Yeah.
And just so good. it sounds like to me too, from all of this, how have you looked at maintaining and what comes in and out of your circle? Because obviously, from talking to you and just really starting to get to know you, I mean, you and I, like, even though this is our first time actually meeting in person, we sparked up conversation very easily. And like you and I started talking, I was like, man, I feel like I've been talking to this dude like my whole life. Like we're just back and forth and joking about stuff. And it was very natural.
Yeah, real smooth.
Like, yeah. How do you approach and look at it? I mean, I obviously know a little bit because I feel the same way. You know, I get asked a lot about the guests I have on my show. How do you meet them? How do you know? Like everybody, even in my business, my day business has nothing to do with this in general. I'm in construction, you know, like multifamily. I do sales. But I don't get asked about my job as much anymore, even when I'm at a trade show. It's, hey, how do you know so-and-so, whatnot? And, you know, I do get very protective of that at certain levels because I was like, at the end of the day, you can't put us all in these boxes. Like, to you, I had a celebrity on, or I had an athlete on, however you want to look at that or categorize that. I had a human being on that's one of my friends. Or somebody that I've met, and because of how I've talked to them, how I've treated them, I've built a relationship with them, and then they're comfortable coming on my show and sitting here and putting their stuff out here and sharing their experiences with everybody else so that maybe they learned something from that. Maybe they picked up something, or maybe they wanted to do that for a living and now they're like, oh, well, that's how he did it. This is what it takes, you know. But I approach things like that too with, you know, like athletes. Like I said earlier, I don't sit with them and start asking them. I mean, obviously we got to do a little bit of an introduction. You can't not talk about it, you know, but I want to learn like the lessons you learned through the great coaches or XYZ. I mean, I've used that example earlier, but to me, there's a narrowing and a growing of your circle. But how have you approached that? Because it seems to me like you got a certain type of person that comes into your circle, and that's either a fit or it's not. How do you deal with that, business versus personal? Where have you found a balance in all of that, I guess is what I'm asking.
So the funny thing is I feel like I'm the most extroverted introvert ever, because like by the end of the day, if I've been talking with a lot of people, like I'm out of words. So like, then that's a challenge with the wife when you get home at 9 o'clock and you've done all this stuff and she's been with kids all day. Like
she wants to talk.
And I've ran out of words at 6 o'clock, you know? I think the balance. So like you said, I'm very protective of these people when they come in my circle. Sometimes though, like there's a level of it, kind of like you and I hit it off real well and smooth. You can tell that with people pretty quickly. Now you may not like be super close right off the bat, but it's kind of on your radar. And intent has a smell. So if those people are showing up and what their intention is on getting close to you, you can typically smell that right off the bat. Like are you coming here just to like get closer to these other people? And that's where the protective thing comes in. The thing that's hard to balance is like and I'm not famous by any means. I get to go do cool stuff with people that I consider famous, and I just get to tag along for as long as I can. But doing the podcast has been the thing where people have reached out to me the most. Echelon Front, some, like you'll get people they'll start following you on Instagram, and I've made friends with people like that have come through the training, and you know, they appreciate all that, and they'll follow all the instructors, and they want to continue conversations. And it's typically, which we go everywhere, so it's not like they're in my life, but there's conversations that happen, and it's always some type of growth, some type of like back and forth, like what they're going through in a way to benefit both of us, like a mutual conversation. I almost lost where I was going with that, but I think with Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, like you get people that'll really ask you questions about your faith or stuff like that. And that's where I get the most interaction with people that I don't know. Now we may have a common theme with Jiu-Jitsu, but we get a lot of people that don't even do Jiu-Jitsu that listen now, and they just want to pick your brain or talk. And that's where I have learned to keep the balance of, should be approachable. Not everybody has full access, but you should still be approachable. I never want people to be like, well, I tried to talk to Josh and he didn't, he was kind of a dick. He didn't have anything to say to me. Now, depending on how you're coming at me and, what friends you're trying to get to, I may be a dick because I'm protecting them.
Yeah.
But you should always, I feel like as a Christian, you should be approachable and be able to, help people. So it's a hard balance, but I want to be able to uplift people and help people as much as I can. But also there is that. Yeah. It's almost like a wall. So, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but like I have my like inner circle that's within this wall that I'm very protective of, and they have like, full access to me. Like they're gonna, if they call me, like I'm gonna be there, stuff like that. And then there's people that like I care about.
If they call after your timer's set for do not disturb, like they're gonna ring through.
Right. Yeah. 100%. So we're so there has to be a balance and there has to be boundaries, I think. But I think Instagram can be so toxic, but then also there can be such beneficial things from it too. Yeah. And I think you really have to find the balance on that. And I use that because that's where a lot of people reach out to us from Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu and stuff, because they obviously don't have my phone number.
How do you look at mentorship then? Because that's similar but different to me, especially because mentorship I think probably takes different angles and levels with you because you guys also involve religion and you're part of a ministry.
Right.
So how do you look at that, whether it's you trying to find a mentor on a certain thing, or how do you approach that with people reaching out that are maybe wanting more guidance that's not just a simple question?
Yeah.
Because I when you're talking about, maybe you told a story, I'm thinking of one of the episodes I watched recently where JP read off a certain section of the Bible, some verses, and then you guys all talked about what that meant to you and how it applies in your life and how you've grown with maybe that verse. And maybe that really rung a bell with, me listening. And I'm like, I reach out on Instagram and I'm like, hey, Josh, your story, man, I totally relate to that. And, do you just further the conversation a little bit, or like, how do you look at that and how are you balancing that? Because that's got to be a lot of different angles, because I know the amount of questions I get on just certain topics that aren't that deep.
Yeah.
It could be cigars, tell me more about this. And that's a shorter conversation, but like,
it's still a mentoring type thing.
It's still a mentoring type thing, whether people really have questions about bourbon, cigars, or just something I said on a podcast.
Right. So that's a great question. I don't mind furthering it. I think if anything that I've said or any of my personal story, or if any take I have on something can help somebody, I think that's my duty to further that conversation. And it's going to depend on what questions they're asking, and obviously. How they're coming at you too. Yeah, and how they're coming. But like if they're legit, just like, hey man, this like you said, resonated with me, I'm happy to further that conversation. And I think that is a type of mentorship. But the thing I'm always clear about, like, is, and I'm the most regular dude. Like, I don't have all the answers, and like if we get deep into something on something like that and I don't have the answers, I'm going to tell you, like, hey man, I don't know, but I'm going to go find out. I'm going to ask somebody, and then I'll get back to you with it. I think a lot of times, especially with like spiritual things, it's not always spiritual things. Sometimes some of the stuff we read from the Bible on our podcast and then apply it to our personal lives, it's just a hard thing that everybody goes through.
Yeah.
And if I can help with that, I will, but I don't have all the answers, and we're not like some corporate thing. Like it's just real people. And I think that's what's most beneficial, because I think you can get through all the bull and just actually get to help people like that. So awesome, man. That's kind of my approach. It's worked so far.
That's cool. Well, I think we're going to have to sit down, you and I, again at some point. Maybe we'll get one of the other guys from the show on here, and we'll all sit down together and we can have another one of these conversations. I want to be very respectful of these people's time. They're being so gracious to let us use this space and get time to get everything out of their way. But there's a couple other things that we do on every show. And there's one that I want to go ahead and talk about too and bring up that maybe you can be a part of a little bit too. I'm going to throw you on the spot here a little bit. So you guys have seen my post recently on Facebook. I'm trying not to get emotional about this, but I have a really close friend. This isn't real public yet. I have a feeling he'll make whatever public announcement he's going to make about this, but really close friend of mine, not much older than me, and he is now battling stage 4 cancer. I did this once before for a good friend of mine. I have enough connections, obviously, through the show, the music industry that I was a part of previously. We're working on picking out a location right now, and we're going to do a charity fundraising event so that hopefully we can raise a good amount of money like we did last time that will go straight to him and his family. He's got, a very young son at home. Him and his wife both work. I'm not going to say the industry either because that might give it away to some people, and I don't want to put his business out there yet because he hasn't put it out there.
Right.
But this is something I've felt called to do, and we're going to put on a good event here. It's going to be another event where we're going to have a place, bar/restaurant, that we're going to have a big event at. It's going to have a silent auction. We're going to have live music. We're going to work out a deal with them for any ticket purchase for entry to come in and see the bands and stuff goes directly towards this fund that we're going to try to raise from him, so that hopefully while he is going through his treatment, and hopefully we can turn this stage 4 down,
right,
and get him some progress in a good way here, that he isn't worried about whether or not he can pay his electrical bill or provide for his family when he's going to be going through very hardcore treatment.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's brutal. It's going to be hardcore. Like I said, it's stage 4. I have another good friend as well that is also going through stage 4. So I'm trying to find a way to balance all this and be able to do something for both of them, or at least help one of them, whatever I can pull off together. But that's coming. So I hope all of you guys will be very supportive of this. I'll make announcements as this kind of comes together. Right now, I'm really I think this one's going to be even bigger than the last one, based on the bands that I've already got reaching out to me. If you're one of my buddies and you're watching this or seeing this and your band does want to participate in this, please just DM me. I'm going to be reaching out to you guys as well. But we're going to put on this event, and hopefully it's going to be real killer. I mean, last time we had amazing silent auction stuff, from autographs and collectibles to gift baskets to gift cards to come train with me for a day, or you guys want to come be a guest on the podcast, you want to smoke a cigar with somebody, I'm going to reach out to a bunch of different people that you guys have seen on this show, see what they're willing to throw up, that maybe you guys can go have dinner with so and so, or whatever. We're gonna put that together. So I'm just a little self-promotion there of that event that's coming. You guys keep that on the radar because he starts his treatment real soon. So now that I know, and I'm finding out later in this mix, I feel a little more pressure this time to get it together even faster. And last time when I did this, I did not know how much work putting something like that together really was. And I know what I'm biting off this time.
Right. Eyes open this time.
Yeah, eyes wide open on this, but that's what we've got coming.
Cool.
But let's wrap it up here. We'll do another one soon. So there's 2 questions I ask everybody.
Okay.
We'll see if you've made it to the end of one of the shows yet.
I have. I think
so. You probably know it's coming. So
I feel like it is, but
for it.
I wanted to see how the show went, so I feel underprepared. So we'll see.
All right. So first question is, if you got to leave your kids with one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Ooh, I don't know if that was on either of the ones I listened to. That one's different.
Not everybody has kids, so I have to reword the question every now and then.
If I could leave my kids one piece of advice, man, I'm gonna. We texted about this earlier, so I'm gonna steal a little bit of it, and then I'm gonna apply a Bible verse to it too. So, James 1:22 in the Bible says, "Be ye doers of the word, not hearers only." And for me, that's the don't just talk about it, be about it. Now that applies to the Bible, but I think it should apply to everything. So you mentioned it on that last podcast I listened to today, and I think if you're gonna say you're gonna do something, you need to do it. Don't just talk about it. Be about it. And I think it sounds so simple, but if you apply that to every aspect of your life, it's going to turn good fruit for you. And I think that's going to keep you humble. That's going to keep you disciplined. That's going to keep you a good friend, a good family member, all that. So if you're going to care about somebody, don't just say you care about them. Be about it. Kind of like your friends you're talking about with stage 4 cancer. Like, we're not just talking about it. You're fixing to do something. You're going to be about it. And I think if kids, especially nowadays, man, like, kids are soft, and it's our fault that we've let it get that way, and they need to be. And I'm not saying be overly hard on your kids, but they need to learn, like, to be a good human, a good productive member of society, a good friend, a good brother, a good husband. You just got to be about it. Like, you can't sit back. That cuts out laziness. That cuts out everything. So I think I'm stealing it from you, but it was in my head before.
I stole it too. You know, a good friend of mine, Paco, that is a good friend of mine that we're working to get on the show here too. Paco, that's one of the big things he always says. And there's a lot of people that love Paco. There's a lot of people that don't like him. I mean, but the one thing I don't think a lot of people can question is when he says he's going to do something, he does it, man. He's about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, he hangs out with a lot of these highly successful, highly motivated, you know, go-getters. And it resonates, man.
Yeah.
That, you know, he ain't going to just talk about that I'm going to do this or that I want to do this. He's either going to do it or he ain't going to do it. And if he talked about it, I can tell you right now, he's going to do it.
He's going to do it.
And, you know, and like you said, that applies across your life in so many ways, you know.
Well, you don't want to be the friend that's like, yeah, I'll be there for you. And then
you're not.
You're not there. Like, we've all had friends that do that.
Yeah.
And eventually you just get to the point, like, they may still be your friend, but you're not counting. You're not calling them after the do not disturb hours. So, I think that would change the world if everybody actually lived like that and applied it to everything they do. So
right on. All right, last one.
All right.
If I haven't asked you and there's something else you wanted to talk about or you wanted to say or just something you wanted to share with people, we ask everybody to give them their 2 cents. It's Common Sense, the podcast. Give us your 2 cents, or that can just be a wrap-up statement that is something you're passionate about, you believe in, or that you want to, you know, kind of throw out there.
Yeah, I think our conversation has been, I mean, it was good for me. I just enjoyed it, but I think there are some elements that everybody can benefit from. So I hope that people may learn something or at least gather some value out of it. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out Jesus a little bit, since I am on the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Yeah. So I don't know where people are in their life, whether they believe in Jesus or not. But my 2 cents, he's real. He loves you. And he's always there for you. So you can reach out, you can do research, whatever. But I think, I feel like anytime I have a platform with anything like that, it's something I believe. And also in a way that I'm not here to make waves. Like there's a respect about it. Like, it's not,
come on, beat him over the head.
I don't want to beat you over the head. I mean, we can do that on the mats if we want when we're rolling. But no, like, I think it's important for people to know that. I think a lot of times Christians, quote marks, get that twisted around like a list of things of right and wrong and things that you can do, you can't do. And, you know, a lot of Christians have that judgy mentality about them. And man, like, that's not what Jesus was. Now
We're all imperfect human beings.
He's the only perfect one. He chose to love us, died for us, and rose again for us. So man, like, and if you are a Christian and you're a dick like that, you need to read your Bible and straighten that out. We're tasked to spread the love of Jesus, not the judgment of Jesus. That's not our job. So
awesome, man.
That's my 2 cents.
Dude. Thank you.
Man. Thank you so much.
It's been great to sit down with you.
It's been an honor.
We hope you guys are coming to join us. We're going to be here I'll be here till right about 7. I can't stay later than 7 because I have another commitment, but we hope you guys enjoyed this show. We'll see you again next week. Peace.
Appreciate it.